we brought back down to the bits, and we talked a great deal about the walkthrough schedule for high quality instruction and learning focused partnerships. So that's what we've been doing on the DIT.
Perfect. Any questions for Steph? Okay, moving on. I would like to welcome Maya Musgraves to the table. Maya is our student council representative. She will be sitting with us at the board table to take part in discussion. Maya, would you like to introduce yourself again one more time to the board and to all those here, and then also give your student council report?
All right. Hi, I'm Maya Musgrave. I'm a senior here at Benzie. As she said, I'm now the student liaison, I guess is my technical term. So as far as student council, homecoming went well. That was on that was just a couple weekends ago. It was held in the gym this time, which was different, but it allowed more airflow and space for everyone to dance. And then also it allowed everyone to go. There was a little outside area, so that was really nice. From what I've heard, some people liked it, some people didn't. I think as far as the younger, the freshmen and sophomores, they didn't really have any prior experience, so it was fine for them. But overall, it went really well. As far as Spirit Week, seniors won, so that was fun. Looking ahead, we've started talking about the holiday luncheon and activities before winter break, and we've decided snow coming will be February 26th. And we're about to vote on our executive board. And then as far as other school programs, NHS, our induction ceremony and letter club will be on November 17th at 7 p.m. This coming week on Wednesday, we're doing, or Thursday, sorry, the NHS is putting together a snap cart and we're taking it around to all the staff in the building during parent-teacher conferences just to do something nice for them.
Very cool.
And as far as Interact Club and NHS are putting on trunk or treat this year, that will be the 22nd at 5 p.m. in the parking lot, in the middle school, high school main parking lot from 5 to 7. And then as far as Pride, they've started doing ice cream on Wednesdays again, and that's $2.
Very cool.
That was always very popular.
What was the snow coming date again?
February 26th.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Maya. We're really glad to have you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the updates from the other groups around the
Yeah.
school too. That's nice to have. Thank you.
Okay, number 6 on the agenda is administration report.
Sure. So first thing up is the NIMSLA report. We had a NIMSLA meeting on the 20th, which was after last month's board meeting, and then there was another one today. So last month, they were talking about some changes to pupil accounting and the 75% attendance report. So as you know, every day we're required to have 75% of students in attendance in order to count it as a day of instruction. And due to COVID and quarantines and isolations, that definitely impacts, and you saw that probably Baldwin had that happen right out of the gate early in the year. And so our legislators were working on some solutions. And so today they shared that there's Senate Bill 645, which is about school code, and then Senate Bill 644, which is school aid. And both of these bills will have some flexibility in how we count students when they have to be remote. So they can either be provided paper packets, they could tune in synchronously, so they could be in a Google Meet while the classroom is learning, or the Google Meet could be recorded and they could watch it asynchronously. And that those are ways that students can be counted for attendance, as well as ensuring that they're still getting access to learning. There's more coming on that, but it seems to have bipartisan support. And so they think that most likely that'll go through. And the good news is it's retroactive. So it will go back and cover anybody that maybe has been impacted by that this year.
For this school year.
Correct. Yeah. And that flexibility, I should also say, is particularly for this year and this state aid package. Also, they, let's see here. They're also looking for more support on recruiting teachers. They're looking at giving post-secondary schools state aid dollars to require them to provide free tuition or front load the debt for students that are enrolling in education programs. They're also looking for funding for districts that have transportation. This is a significant cost for Central and Northern Michigan, and we know we're I think 21st in the state for spending on transportation costs. We're also looking for, they're looking at softening out-of-state licensing for folks that are teachers but don't have their Michigan certification, trying to get more teachers in classrooms. They're also creating some supports for helping teachers that expired their certification get on a fast track to get recertified. And they're also looking for help with regards to certain reporting requirements, like the rep report and SEPI, when an honest mistake is made versus giving financial penalties for that. And I think that we probably could have fallen into that last year when we got a penalty. The House is continuing to approve the COVID procedures, but they're sure the governor will veto it. And that was what we know. The governor didn't veto it, but the language was deemed unconstitutional with masking. And that's it for the NIMSLA update. Any questions about that? Okay, moving right on. The next section is also a new thing for us this year. It's called Public Act 48, Section 98B. And essentially, they decided that they needed to have a separate public act asking us to set goals and strategies for our district, even though we have the MyKIP plan as well. So part of this was that by September 15th, every building that is operated by our district had to set our goals for the year. And so all of our administrators met and decided to use the work that we've been doing with MyKIP to be our plan. And so the decision was made that every building would use that goal, and every building essentially said that they were looking for a 10% growth or achievement. So basically we're saying we want to have 80% of our kids hitting tier 1, which would be like 50th percentile. That's the goal, to say that we have a solid system in place. And so many of our buildings were hovering anywhere between 30 and 50%, 55%. And so they are hoping to have a 10% increase in students' achievement over the course of this year. So that will be reported again to you guys in February, where we're at from the fall benchmark and NWEA to the winter one. And then we'll do that again in May.
So Amy, the MyKIP is through MDE, right?
Correct.
And then this is through the legislature?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't think there's a whole lot of communication happening.
Apparently not.
But essentially, we've made it easy. We're looking for a 10% increase, and that will be part of our MyKIP plan that we're continuing to work on. That will probably be a 3 to 5 year plan.
Sure.
And Steph mentioned that earlier. So that's it for the Public Act 48, but there was nothing to turn in. It just had to be discussed. So there you go. You're all in the know. Next on the agenda, we have an update from Lake Ann Elementary by Larry Hahn and I think Jill Great. So I'm not sure who's going first.
Good evening, and good evening, everyone, for coming. My name is Larry Hahn. I'm principal Lake Ann Elementary. I have a few updates. One of the things I would like to do is first have Jill Greats come up and give us an update of cross country, our activities after school. There are some attempts to get some way back to normalcy. Outdoor activities is awesome. And Jill's amazing. So I'll have Jill go ahead and give an update for what's going on in Lake Ann cross country.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks, Larry. Well, I'm Jill Greats, and I am the Lake Ann cross country coach, and this is my second year doing it. Last year was a little weird. We had a whole 3 weeks, so 3 races and 3 practices was it. So last year was kind of like my inaugural, and this year we've been just going hardcore, since the very, very first week of school. Kids have been there 2 to 3 times a week, almost 3 hours of practice a week for elementary kids. They've been working their little tails off, and it's just been so invigorating to see the joy in their faces. We need that right now, do we not? We need to see some normalcy and some excitement, and just seeing their faces has been okay, this is who we're doing this for, and this is what it's all about. Seeing these kids just encourage each other, challenge themselves, make goals, achieve what they want, and have fun. That's my biggest goal for them, is just enjoy being together and having fun again. And they have been doing amazing. We do have 3 programs at all 3 elementaries. So we've got us at Lake Ann, we've got about 25 athletes, and then Crystal Lake has about the same. And then Betsy Valley is just the powerhouse. They've got like 35 athletes. So, I mean, come out tomorrow to our last race because we've got about 75, 80 little husky pups that are just raring to go. They've got goals. They are looking at their times from last time and they just want to beat that. And they're just ready to rock, and they're just there to encourage each other. And they are just the best part about coming to a race is watching them at this, the starting line. And there's over 100 kids. Last race it was 130 kids, and they are just at toe into the line. And the best part is when they see the middle school and high school husky big dogs come over to them and give them high fives and encourage them. Like, that is just the best sight. Like, really, it brings tears to your eyes as you're like, this is why we do this, because we want to see these kids grow physically, mentally, mental health, like huge mental health boost that's going on right now with these kids. So I'm just super excited to see what's happening, and that we do have joy, we do have hope, we do have light in this crazy world that we live in right now. So come on out tomorrow and cheer on our husky pups. That's it.
Thanks,
Thank
Jill.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. Here, just take one and pass it. Thank you. And for those, for most of you that know about the Benzie Cross Country Program, it's really a storied program. And what makes the program, I think, what makes it great year after year is because it's way more about than just about the competition and running. They have so many kids out because it's about improvement. Improvement all the time. They celebrate PRs. They celebrate each other. They celebrate coming across the finish line. I've seen many times where a student is coming across maybe right near one of the last finishers, but it's a PR for them. And you couldn't tell from watching the athletes, if this was someone winning the race or was someone that was near the end of the race, but it was a PR and they were excited. And it's really good for kids. So I think that's pretty cool. And Jill, as you could tell, is like right in line with all of that. We are very fortunate to have her at Lake Ann. What you see in front of you, speaking of improvement, and this will just give a snapshot. It's a 20,000-foot view. It's a run chart that gives you, it's 7 years of data, 6 data points because we had one that wasn't there. That would be the year before. This is from M-STEP, and this is our percentage of our kids that met both the math and reading goal, the combined score. And what is impressive is if you take a look at that, is the continual growth. Really since 2015, but that line really was solid, right close to the trend line. When you see that black line going up, that's the trend line. That's where that could be a predictor if we had a stable system. When you have that many data points that are that close to the trend line, you have a stable system that is growing. Doesn't mean things can't happen. Doesn't mean COVID can't hit. However, if you look between 2018-19 and 2020-21, where we had a year and a half or so of COVID that our kiddos had to deal with, there are around 30 schools in the region, the TBA ISD. It's now Northwest Education Services. Around 30 elementary schools in the region, and there were only about a half a dozen, about 5 or 6, that showed growth, and Lake Ann was one of them. There were a couple that stayed even, and then the vast majority, which we would all anticipate, would see a drop. And what was good to see is that our kids showed growth. They had a little bit less growth than in previous years, but they showed growth. And pretty proud of the kids, the families, and the staff for their dedication to make that happen. And so that's what we can read that chart to mean. We can see, is it a blip, or are we really systemically doing something that is helping to improve? Because anyone can have just a good group of kids, as a lot of athletic coaches would do, say, yeah, we just have a really good group of kids this year, and so they went on, made a run for the state championship. But to do it year after year after year, that's a program. This is year after year after year, so that's a program. If you flip it over, and I'm sorry for there's some gray areas that really aren't that needed anyway. The gray areas are the ones you can't see because they didn't copy well. The things to note are on the top part, the performance, overall performance, and that would be what created the data on the front page, or at least a couple of years of the data on the front page, the 46 and 49. What's interesting there is to take a look at 2018-19, and to see the state average was 42% of the kids meeting proficiency according to the M-STEP. It's important to say according to the N-STEP, because I'll share with you just a little insight as to why that's a kind of a thing. And as you can see, schools in the red then are schools that are similar characteristics as Lake Ann and what we did. You'll notice when you go up to 2020-21, what happened with the other data points. They went down, and significantly down for state, and even went down for schools that were similar to us, and we kept improving. So that was pretty cool. That's what that says. The bottom one you can look at your own leisure if you want. That has to do with the student growth, and what that says is we're growing. Our kids are growing or learning more each year than the rest of the kids in the state, which is pretty cool. Or other schools are with our characteristics. Any questions on this? Because I want to give you a little insight, and it will connect to the MySIP a little bit that I think would be pretty cool. Just any questions on the chart at all, or?
No. I think we're good.
Okay. So Amy has us gathering lots of data, which I appreciate her doing that, because I think that is the first step in taking a look at where are we so we can determine what we need to do. Interesting enough, and I think Amy could attest that I may have been one of the most outspoken members of the administrative team. 80%, do you realize what that is? How many schools in the state of I could go on and on with what I had to say about 80%, because that is pretty significant. When only 50% of the population of the United States get to that, we want 80% of our kids to do that. That is significant. Well, at Lake Ann, so then I looked up Lake Ann and then I shut up. And that was probably best anyway, but Lake Ann's data helped me to say, okay, wait a minute, that's doable. And which Amy knew anyway, but she let me go for a while. And so when we're taking a look at the NWA, and we assess 3 times a year, and I tend to take the last, the spring to see what's going on. I did in the fall for something else, but I tend to take the one score so we can have one set, a consistent data point. And last spring, the percentage of students that scored 50% or above was 68.6% or 68.06% for reading. That's only about 12 percentage points away from the district goal of 80%, which I was worried about and thinking that was unrealistic. And then in math, we're at 67.43%, which is only, again, about 13% or 12.5% away from that goal. If we grow by 10%, which I think that is a stretch goal, and I think that's important and to keep reaching for that. But if we did grow by 10 percentage points, that puts us really close to the 80%. If we keep doing like we have been doing, then within a year or two, outside 3, it could be at 80%. But that the important thing is it's and I tell the kids and they know it, and most we don't have as many high school staff here anymore than when I was here, but it's not how we start, it's how we finish. And so then we got to keep improving every year. Just because we're doing this doesn't take much to do a blip going down the other direction if we're not working hard. And so we want to keep doing that. But I thought I'd share that with you tonight because along with the successes of our after-school programs and getting kids back to just getting with each other and having some fun and getting a little bit more normalcy, thought it would be nice to see that Benzie is taking care of business in the classroom as well. And I think that's important to celebrate those successes. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
All right, next on here is the 2021-2022 food service contract with NMCAA. This is again the contract that we do with NMCAA for Betsy Valley and Platte River's classroom to provide breakfast, lunch, and a snack. Any questions about that? That was in the.
So the food at Platte River is made at Crystal Lake and then brought over, or do we utilize their kitchen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it comes from there, from Crystal Lake.
And then do we pay for the transportation of it, or is that part of,
That's
is it
part of,
written into
I
the
think that's part
contract?
of their cost, yes, yep. And then Betsy Valley's is of course made right there inside.
Yeah.
Okay, next thing on here is the Qualified Forest Program. This was actually approved by the board on August 9th. And I received a phone call on Friday from Kevin, and I sent that to you today because he reached out and was very concerned about our application. I had it pulled up here so I can read it to you. Kevin Van Giesen, and he is the gentleman who runs the Qualified Forest Program for the state. And he said he was reaching out because he had some concerns about our application. And he said he was wondering why a school would ask for the Qualified Forest Program to be exempt from property taxes when we already are exempt. And I explained to him that we were working with Twisted Trails, who leases the property, and that this would provide them some taxation relief because the other two property parcels that they own are already in the Qualified Forest Program. I guess the original tip-off came from the Manistee County delegate from the Qualified Forest Program that reached out to Kevin and said, we're not sure why they would want to do this. So Kevin explained to me that the concern that he is noting for us is that if we ever severed the lease with Twisted Trails, or that Twisted Trails went out of business, or for whatever reason we no longer had that, in order for us to no longer be in the Qualified Forest Program any longer would be that we would have to pay the recapture tax. And the recapture tax would be whatever the last 7 years of tax payments were times 2. And he said that because we're leasing, the leasee would not be required to pay that, but the owner would be. So we're the landowners, so we would be the ones on the hook. If there was a way that was written into the lease agreement, then they could be on the hook for it. But he said, again, you run the risk of the people you're leasing to may go bankrupt and then you're out of luck. So I just asked him, since this is his job, he said he couldn't advise me, but he said if this were his property and he was managing it, he would not move forward with that. So given that this is the person who does this for the state, I thought that we needed to revisit it and decide if that was truly what we wanted to do. And being good fiscal managers of these resources, we don't know what's going to be happening to that property in 10 or 20 years, and none of us will be here, but somebody else will be on the hook for that. So I thought that it deserved our attention to revisit it.
Can we get some of those numbers, the tax numbers by chance?
Sure. Yeah. He actually told me that they would have saved about $1,900 based on it this year. If
So they would have saved, but
$1,900. But if they were not to, then we would be paying 7 years of that times 2.
$28.
How long's it been in the program?
it hasn't yet.
It hasn't.
Hasn't been.
No.
We just.
No, they're
voted on
holding
it.
our application because he flagged it and went, this doesn't make
This doesn't
sense.
make sense. So it'd be fine for a property owner, but it doesn't make sense for a leaseholder.
Correct. Yes.
A leaseholder that's already exempt because of
Right.
our.
Sure.
Because we're a school.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. And that's why he said it doesn't make sense why you would want to do that. Plus the taxes that they're currently pay into the school's
Right.
fund.
Right, which was the argument originally was that, well, we would be get reimbursed from a different source, so it would be a
Right.
zero net for us.
Correct. Yeah.
So if we revoke this tonight, does Twisted Trails?
I reached out to Donna and to Paul today and didn't hear back from either of them. But my guess is it sounds like the Manistee counterpart had already made
Okay.
contact with them and questioned it. So,
Good catch.
Thank you to the Manistee Power.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then we didn't have any resignations or retirements.
Okay. Board of Education Committee reports, Building and Grounds Committee. And that's Brian, and my notes are home. Do you have notes?
Sure.
Thank you.
So we met again last week, moving along on all of our projects, getting close to having those go out for bid. The first one will be the Transportation Department and Lake Ann's addition. Those are set to go out in November, late October, early November, so very soon they're going to be going out. The hope is to get a few of these projects out for bid to see where they land, because all of the projects are coming in either right at the top of the budget or slightly over. And this is not without us trying in every which way to maximize what we're doing and make sure that the project's still going to meet our needs. But, do we need the hallways? Can they be a little bit shorter? Can we squeeze out some square footage? Do we need to use brick all the way around the building? Can we use, different materials? So we're trying very hard to look at all the ways to save money. But of course, these bonds were, started 4 years ago when the costs were different. The scope of our projects never really shifted, but every time we went out for bond, we always reduced the cost of the bonds. So that is impacting us at this point. So we're hoping to move that forward. We do have a meeting this week on Wednesday evening to go over material choices for the new elementary school. And then Laura is coming to do a site visit on the 14th here on this campus to look at cabinets for the science department and the room layout, and then the cabinetry for the high school end. And then along with that, we have run into an obstacle with DTE. They are not wanting us to cross their gas line to get to Henry Road. And so she has not returned any of my calls, but she did somehow get in touch. Dan got her one day, and he said he thinks it was quite by accident. But she offered up the reason. So the letter that they sent to us on the 28th of September says, DTE has reviewed the school's request and to install 4 paved concrete crossings over our 8-inch steel natural gas pipeline, which was constructed in 1967. Unfortunately, due to safety and integrity concerns for such crossings over this line, we request the alternative means of accommodating your future property expansion be sought that do not include crossing or pipeline. This is not a decision that we made in haste, but rather a conclusion that was met by several engineers, technicians, and other personnel weighing in on this matter. Just for some context, we met with them virtually in July, and we heard nothing from them since this. And this was prompted because I reached out to Jack O'Malley, who reached out to his contact at DTE, and then we got an answer the very next day. So when Dan spoke to her, Carla said that the reasons that they're denying it is because of the concern for vehicle traffic, especially buses, and potential damage to the line due to vibration, the inability for DTE to perform annual condition assessment on the line, where they would have the asphalt paved drives, concern for student safety with ongoing service and maintenance of gas line conflicts with student safety, particularly during a recent cross-country event. And given that they feel that there's an easy solution for all improvements to happen east of the gas line, they will not allow us to cross the gas line. So I reached out to our attorneys to see what we can do. Just for fun, on my ride to work last week, I counted every time there was a gas line that was crossed by a road intersection. Starting at White Oak and Interlochen, there were 30 plus. Didn't even bother to count all the driveways that went over top of them because there were numerous ones. It goes over Platte River Elementary has 2 crossings. The road commission, big heavy things, crosses. It goes under US 31 up to Marshall Road, crosses under Marshall Road, and none of those have seemed to have an issue. So our attorneys think that we should continue to try to work with them and see if we can find a resolution to this. When Dan spoke to her, she also said that they would never allow us to cross to the back 16 acres, which also the easement goes through our property.
Amy, we can revoke that easement. It's our property.
He did tell me that
the easement.
that would be an option of last resort, because most likely they would require us to pay the cost of relocating their gas line.
I think they're on thin ice for that one.
Okay. So I'm going to continue to reach out to
Yeah.
Carla again. And if I don't hear from her, I'm going to reach out to Jack's contact, Winston, and start with him and see where we can go. But our attorneys seem to think that we're maybe being unfairly targeted on this. I also did go back and look at the crossings, and if we are not doing the easement of Henry Road around the substation and we just use Henry Road as is, the new plan is drawn so that we would only have to do one crossing. And I think that that's still very doable. It's not the most ideal at the end of Henry Road, but it's still an option. And given that they're quoting us between $800,000 and $1 million for a driveway, seems a bit unrealistic.
So one thing I want to add to this is Dan has, every time we have a core meeting, Dan reports that he has reached out to DTE multiple times in the past weeks, and they're not answering them. And so is Amy. And so I want to thank Amy for her due diligence on this, because she has not let this sit. She has been on it since before July. And I think DTE now needs to come to the table and work with us and not ignore us, because, we have taxpayer dollars that we would like to build a school with. And until they can figure out a solution with us, we are in stalemate right now.
Stance is silly.
Sure. And just for your information, we actually did start reaching out to them in February.
Yeah, I was going to say,
That's
it's
when
been
the
a
conversation
very long
started.
conversation. A one-way conversation, we should say, right?
Yes, right. We didn't get
We're not
very
getting
far.
anything.
And then just a quick update on the sinking fund and our first bond project. So sinking fund projects the punch list is done for the lights. They work great. Betsy Valley's parking lot, it's fine. Lake Ann boilers are in. They still have some, I think, stack work to do, and they need to get them set up on the temperature control management system. They are on and they're working, but they're currently set at 70, I think Mike said, until they can get the management system set up. So those are functional and ready to go. The signs are the big issue right now. So the Betsy Valley and Lake Ann signs are both not functioning at this time. The LED is the problem. So the LED portion that was purchased is not what was spec'd, and it is not working in the appropriate way. So Lake Ann sign they're like 10-inch squares, and those squares were not even installed correctly. So if you put a message in there, some of the letters are upside down and not functioning correctly. The Betsy Valley one did function, but it was very grainy, lines through it. It was definitely a subpar product and not what was bid. When the owner looked at it, he also said that it wasn't the right LED. Can't think of what pixelation, right? So we've been trying to work it out with them to fix this. It is not going very well. The owner has acknowledged that this is their problem, that they should have, fixed it. It's not the correct component. But they are trying to say that it works fine. He, I think, even said he came up here last week and drove by and the signs were working great, which isn't true because the signs have been off for probably 3 weeks. So today, Chris Gerke from Walgast sent them a letter basically stating, you have 48 hours to get in touch with us about how you're planning to solve this, or we're going to revoke the bond fund and get the money back that way. It's not really the way that we wanted to handle it, but it's been going on for too long at this point. So he's hopeful that they're going to come to the table and resolve that. The last part of it is the roof update. They have actually laid all of the roof now except for over the science wing. They're planning to have that done by Friday. So all of the roofing material will be done except for the flashing. And they think that'll probably take another 2 to 3 weeks to get all the flashing done all around the building. But should be done by the beginning of November.
They've had great weather.
Yes. Yep. And quick fire update. We are going to have Carmen's cabinets delivered on Wednesday, and they're going to be able to install cabinets and should have them done by Thursday evening. And then on Friday, the plumbers are supposed to come and hook up all the sinks and get all her sinks done. So fingers crossed that Carmen will have her room finished by next
She
Monday.
doesn't have a class in there right now that uses that side of her room, right?
She is such a creative lady. She had figured out how to take her curriculum for that and turn all the paper bookwork stuff to be the first half. And so the plan is the last 4 weeks are going to be solid cooking projects every day.
Wonderful. Okay, fantastic.
So, yeah, she was such a joy to work with on this, really. I mean, I can't imagine, as a former teacher, having your classroom destroyed. I can't imagine, and she handled it with such grace. So, really pleased with how she did that, and she's got a beautiful new space. So,
Kudos.
yeah, kudos to her for sure. Any questions about projects happening? Don, yes.
With the signs, so the 48-hour window, they don't respond, what happens at that point? When will we have those signs? When will that issue be resolved, or what's the next step?
So Chris made it sound like to me that at that point, then you can go forward with trying to revoke the bonds. And I'm not sure, he said that you have to like plead your case. So I'm not sure who you plead your case to about revoking the bonds. But he said that he has compiled enough information to really have a strong argument for us that they've admitted that this is their problem. They've admitted that this was their mistake, that they've admitted to using a new contractor they knew nothing about. And so the onus really is on them. So he doesn't seem to think that we would have a huge battle on this, but the process is that you have to give them one last attempt in writing with all of that. So he's hopeful that
So
they'll do the
we'll
right
know
thing.
in the next 2 days?
Can you say who they are? What that is?
Volk, signed VOLK.
And Molgas does the legwork on this, right? We don't.
Walgast has done everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris has.
No, I'll say
A
Chris has
dream.
been
I love
phenomenal.
Chris.
I mean, he's an amazing individual to work with on that core team. It's
He knows
Incredible.
his stuff.
he
He
does
has.
not miss a single detail.
Yeah,
Of
one of the
anything.
nicest persons.
Were these guys hired by Wolcast?
No, we approved their bid.
Their
We
bid.
did.
Yes, they were the low bidder. So I guess sometimes you get what you pay for, but they actually didn't meet the bid specifications. So that's also why they're in the wrong at this point, because they gave us something that won't connect from the elementary office to the sign, which was part of the bid package specification. And the sign specification spelled out the pixelation that should be there, and it's not correct. So they're wrong on 2 counts, not to mention that they've already acknowledged it in emails that they know that this is their fault, so.
Mhm.
Amy,
Thank
I
you.
was, I'm sorry, just to get back to the roof for just a second, I was noticing at practice this afternoon that there's still a lot of stuff up there. They definitely think it's going to be doable in the next couple of weeks, because I was starting to worry about the weather,
Yeah,
actually.
they said all the material has been laid. So except for the science wing, there's 3 classrooms on that side that they plan to get
Which is
done by
probably
Friday.
where I would have been looking from the
Yes,
football
yeah.
field, but yeah.
And then, of course, they just got a lot of like area cleanup, debris, that kind of stuff, and then all the flashing around the edges, which they saved to the end. And they did do it sometimes when there'd be rain. They would go do the flashing because they couldn't do the roofing material. So I've been really impressed with Blacksum. They've done a really phenomenal job, and
They seem to be excellent communicators.
Yeah.
they have been. Yep. And there were a couple of small little things that we encountered, and the president and the owner were right on it. Like they personally came out and
Nice.
handled it. So
Yeah, they're good.
It looks amazing.
yeah, it does.
It
It's really
does.
good.
Looks great.
Okay, any more on the bond?
I think that was it for bond.
Okay, do you want to go over the paging system?
Sure thing. So, so this is actually, the paging system is actually going to be covered. Oh, I gave everybody my copies. This is actually going to be covered by some of our federal ESSER dollars. But when we changed our phone system, I think 3 years ago, the new phone system paging is really horrible. It's hard to hear. The volume is not very loud, and announcements often get missed because of it. And so there's been a concern for a while about safety and missing important information because of it. And so, so we started this summer. Dennis and Bernie were helping with this, and we worked with Brett Emerson, who is also our tech consultant for the bond projects, on how we could get the same system installed in the new elementary, but also make that same system work for all of our existing facilities. And this will have a feature that there could be an all call center, all the buildings from one location. which could be a real important safety feature for future as well. So those projects went out for bid in September, and the bid closed on Friday. We did have 4 bidders that came in. They actually did the bid walkthrough, I think, the week before the bid closed. And if you look in your email, you'll see that there were 4 of them. So the bid that came in the lowest was called ASCOM North. And when they submitted their bid on Friday, their base bid was $77,060, and plus the cost of their bond for 2019. So normally what happens after those bids close is that they actually do a bid call. They call the winner, they ask some questions, and they confirm that everything is correct. Their bid was significantly lower than the next closest one. So there was some concern that maybe something got missed. When they looked through, they did discover that so every paging system has to have a base module. And the base module was included in high school, but when they built their spreadsheet, they forgot to carry that column over. And so their base bid was about just under 20,000 off of what it should have been. And I think it was 8,000 something and some change is what the cost of the base should have been for Betsy Valley and for Lake Ann. So after they talked it through, Brett said that he believed that it was an honest mistake, didn't see any of their other costs being changed. Sometimes there's concern if something comes in after bid or you change something after, that there could be a concern. I did call our attorneys today just to confirm that that was an acceptable option. ASCOM North, with their revised bid, came in at $96,575. The next closest bidder was $138,166, and the next closest one after that was $191,147. And so I asked Brett if they, it's called CareHawk system. I said, is this like a quality program? It's not subpar. Like I'm learning the questions to ask now. And he said, no, it's a system that he often uses in his projects now, and that he sees no problem with it. It's a quality program. So he said that didn't really have anything. The other one, Master, I think, bid with a Valcom system, and he said they're both quality programs. So he didn't see any concerns with that. So if you choose to move forward with their base bid, it's $96,575. There is an alternate to add on $16,485, which would be for the cost of new speakers to replace all the existing speakers. Brett said that he didn't necessarily think that we needed to do that. But when Bernie went through, and I don't know, Dennis, if you want to speak to this too, that there were some speakers that the wires were not connected appropriately. Brett wasn't sure if that was a few isolated speakers or if it was, all the speakers.
We're just looking in this room, where are the speakers?
We used to have one here.
Oh, right there's one.
So the alternate was how much more?
The alternate to add speakers is $16,485.
So did the 136 bid that was next bidder, does that include speakers as well?
No, their bid for speakers was $5,278. And then the third bidder was $191, and they did not include the bid for alternate for speakers. And then top line bid $226,000, and then they added the alternate of $19,000 for speakers.
So we're right on par with about the same cost for speakers.
Yeah.
So if we were to add the alternate to it, we would be about what?
So all in, I think we were $113,060. And the next closest bidder was 138 base plus the 5,000.
So 113 is with the alternate.
Correct. So when it comes time to accept the bid, just wanted to share with you too that Brett shared in here, and then also Kirk agreed with it, that that given that this is an honest mistake and given that they still continue to be the lowest bidder, that he didn't see any concern with doing that. He also says that ASCOM North is a Northern Michigan company, and they're from Traverse City. And the other reason that he continued to bid so low is because he's been outbid quite a bit lately, and he wanted to be able to offer the service locally, and plus because he's not traveling, that there was some added expenses there for him.
What's the time frame to have the project complete?
Um,
Do anything like that, like to do speaker replacement and
Let me
everything?
see here. I know that the plan
Last
is to
summer?
do this, no, it's gonna be third or second shift. They would be
Okay.
doing it in the evening, starting at 3:30
Okay.
and working until whenever, 10 or
Sorry, I didn't get a
11.
chance to read
Yeah.
through the entire packet.
Sorry, I'm trying to find where it says it. I might have grabbed the wrong packet. This is just all of their insurance stuff. Might see it in here. I believe that they're set to start though as soon as, yeah.
So our decision is going to have to be if we add on speakers or not.
Well, it's going to have to be first if you would accept
Accept them.
the revised bid
Yeah.
due to the error in their carrying through in their spreadsheet.
Okay.
And then if you choose to accept it, you would have to accept the base bid, and then you could say we would, do you want to accept the base package, or do you want to accept the revised package, including the speaker alternate, which is alternate one?
And Brett's saying we don't need them, but Bernie, who's on in-house, is
Right.
saying we
Right.
should.
Several there.
I'd be in
Yeah.
favor of adding the speakers on because it just seems to me that you'd want to get everything done all at once. And
We're doing
And-
so many project upgrades to the school. Why would you not put new speakers?
Right,
in?
Right, for that,
yeah,
And it's a safety.
and the whole point of this is so that, we are getting the message out. I mean, the reason we're doing this is because we want to get the message
Down.
out to everybody, and we were having issues, and concerns with safety and everything else. So making sure that you have nice, shiny new speakers that work properly seems to be part of the picture.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or is there
I
good
would agree.
quality and not junk?
right. It does say that the work is to be completed by March 1st, 2022. And just so you're aware too, so Crystal Lake will not be having this done, but because of the new building that's going to be built. But interestingly enough, their speaker system is the only one that's actually functioning properly. So, any other questions about that?
I would think that we would go forward with new speakers. I mean, personally, that would be my thought. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to not do it when you're doing as much work as what's being done around here.
That's
So.
just classrooms. It wouldn't be hallways or anything like that. It would just be
I
classrooms.
believe it is hallways too. Do you remember, Dennis? I think it was anywhere there's a speaker system.
Cafeteria.
I
mean,
think
that would
so.
be a big one.
Yes.
Everywhere.
And that's why I think the high school's cost was like 52,000
Well, yeah.
versus
That's
the
just a
elementaries
much
were like
larger
22. Yeah.
Footprint, so.
Include bells too.
No, we,
Program it.
I don't think so. This was just,
Figured I'd ask.
of course.
That's how it used to be.
All right.
Flat River.
So, Flat River.
Someday this will all be all right.
Right. So this is for Mrs. Coda. Kirk said that he does not, and I put it right in here, that performing the title search per MCL 380.1203 addresses board member conflicts of interest related to contracts and other financial transactions that require board approval. Since Mrs. Coda is not charging for the work, she's simply providing information to administration, and there is no board action required. I do not believe there's a conflict being triggered. However, even if it was, it would only require you to abstain from voting.
Okay.
So there is another statute dealing with contractual conflicts between public entities and public servants. But again, he said, I do not believe that this contract would impact that statute. The road commission may want to conduct its own title search, but he doesn't see a problem with you offering that service to them and seeking that information out to help dispute it. He says he still has not heard back from the road commission, and I called them again today. They have not responded about it yet. So he said, really, it's going to be up to you guys how you want to proceed. If you want to proceed with the quiet title search, at least collecting the information first before we move forward with that, and see if you can find out who the previous owners were, and we try to reach out with, in our own way with doing it, or you can go the legal route. He still advises us that we should let the road commission do it. We should just do as is, but if the road commission is choosing not to, which at this point they haven't responded, so we don't know what they're doing, then the alternative would be that we would go through that search on our own. So I guess that's a decision that you need to make. And he said it could be a few $1,000s to go through court, and it's time consuming.
Of course.
If, I've already started doing some of the legwork for it
Mhm.
anyway.
Okay.
I guess my feeling is that I'd much prefer that the road commission take care of this and deal with it. And I mean, as I said before, my offer is still open to them too. I can do it for them just as easily. And I've already done some of this stuff for them already about this. So I would think that they would want me to just do this extra little tiny slip that's in there as well and take care of it. But
Yeah.
if they don't, come back and give you a definitive answer one way or the other, you want me to start playing with it, see what I can find?
I think that would probably be the best position for us right now, is to collect as much information as we can.
Okay.
Since they've already pretty much said before, and they're not, getting back to Kirk about this, it sounds like their position is to let this get resolved before they take ownership. So if we can at least produce some documents that say this has been owned by the school. And I don't know if you looked already on tax records. Has anybody been taxed for that property? You did look already?
We have.
Okay.
It shows, the tax description for the school includes that little,
Okay.
it's like it's one rod,
It's one
16 and a half
yeah.
feet. So,
One rod.
yeah, but they put it on ours, but since we don't pay taxes anyway, it's not a big deal one way or the other. Nor does the road commission pay taxes.
Right.
So,
Right.
so it wouldn't really matter.
No, but he was wondering for how long it's been attached to us, if you can check tax records to see.
A while. I started going back in granteeing this, and it's so far I've gone back into like the early 60s, and
Okay.
it's been the same legal descriptions that far, so it's going to go back a ways.
Yeah. I've got stuff in the office from the 1800s if you want to look at any of that.
I don't.
It's so cool though.
Thank you, Doc. I already did a search for the Benzie County Treasurer a couple of weeks ago that went back to the 1800s. I don't want to do another one if I can.
It's hard to read some of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty faded.
It's probably pretty fancy handwriting.
It is. I
It's
will never read
atrocious.
it.
So I see this in action topics, but that's not gonna be
Yeah.
an action item, then, correct?
I think and the only action, I guess, that you guys would have to take, I guess, is if you want to ask Lori to go ahead and move forward, but the topic that we actually have is the transfer, and we're not there yet, so we could
We
just
just keep
table
putting
it.
it on there,
Yeah,
hoping.
we keep, yeah,
Lay it on
throwing it
the
against.
It's the longest table thing I've ever seen on
I know.
action
I
topic.
think
Oh, yeah, that reminds me too, along with that, the easement that is part of Homestead Township in the ball fields supposedly is finished, but their attorney for Homestead Township has not gotten back to Kirk. They were supposed to give him a copy of the signed easement. So we signed off, they signed off, but there's not an actual document that's been produced to either of us that this is done. So he thinks it's pretty done, but we're waiting on a copy. So that could be the longest running item. All right, that's it for Platte River.
Okay, so I show no other committee reports.
Oh, yep, I
Except
do.
for finance. Are we
Well,
gonna-
policy committee, I
Oh.
do want to pull you guys back together for a meeting day soon. So after, I'd like to
Can't
get a
figure
time
that
from
out
all of you. there's a few topics, some handbook revisions that I think need to be addressed.
Absolutely.
And
Are you talking soon or
probably in the next couple weeks.
We
That's
believe
possible.
soon.
probably before November would be a good idea?
Yes.
Yep, we'll do that. And then finance, I do have an update for the finance committee. So this week our audit is beginning, and Justin and our entire office staff has been working with our auditors. Then we also held interviews today, first round, for our new administrative assistant and early childhood assistant. And we will be holding the second round next Monday.
How many candidates did we get?
We had 4 candidates, and we have 2 qualified ones moving forward.
Fantastic.
Yep. And then the other part that I wanted to update was our federal funds that we've received. I know that there's been some questions about that, so I wanted to share this. So we received ESSER 1 funds, $244,906, and those were received last year. Those paid for PPE, technology, Chromebooks, and salaries. We also received gear dollars, which was $89,822 from last year. That helped pay for our online platforms and the Kindles and some of the touchscreen Chromebooks. Then ESSER 2. ESSER 2 has been divided into 2 rounds. So the first round of ESSER 2, which is 42.6% of our funding, which ended up being $429,617, came in this year. So we allocated that this year to cover salaries, also to help cover extended summer learning. So this summer we had summer school in 2 of our sites, and that helped pay for the teachers. And then we also used it to help cover technology costs. Then ESSER, and our elementary counselor. So that was money that was used from that first round of ESSER 2. ESSER 3 is the second round. That is for $555,383. That has not been allocated yet, but the paging system, which is under school safety, will come out of that funding. And then there's some other safety pieces that we're going to review. And then also some of that may have to help cover costs for some of our building projects that are over budget at this point in time.
As long as they're tied to the purpose of the funds.
Correct. Yep. And school improvements is part of it. HVAC is part of that. So those are all things that we can do. And we are getting new HVAC in Betsy Valley and the middle school, high school. And then Lake Ann may also be getting, so they're going to be demoing some equipment starting tomorrow. It's called an R0 machine. It's a UV light machine that's supposed to kill germs in the room before custodians go in to clean. And then we're also going to be demoing an air purification system that's also using lights. And then Maya's parents sent me some information about another company that we're going to explore. So that technology is on loan to us right now to demo it and see how it works. Those are not cheap. Each one of those UV lights is $35,000. And then
Are they portable?
they are portable. Yep, they can go one. So you'd have like one per building probably. And then the stand-up units, I think, are around $1,000. And then there are some ionization, they look like cartridges that would go into our existing HVAC. So that's something we're exploring for Lake Ann because the new upgrades are going to have the bipolar ionization already built into the HVAC. So we're trying to look at Lake Ann since they have rooftop units, which is different than because you have in-floor heating. And the other buildings all have stand-up or vertical or horizontal units. And then, of course, the new elementary will already be programmed with the bipolar ionization systems. And then the third round of ESSER has not been released to us at this point. There was some new information that came out today asking that we would send out a community survey with like the 12 allocated uses for this and get community input on how to spend the third round. And the third round is about 2.2 million. And again, some of that may be necessary to help some of the upgrades, but then also continuing to cover salary costs because we've had a declining enrollment. And we have tried to not cut staff or employees and tried to continue. We, added more paraprofessional to help support with student learning. We've added designated subs in every one of our buildings. Some of them, have multiples. So trying to get as much as we can for support into classrooms. And then there will be also probably some technology there because the technology plan is every 3 years that we need to get on a cycle for the Chromebooks because they don't really last all that long. So some of that money will probably go to technology upgrades. We also had new projectors, which I forgot to mention. That was in ESSER 1. I'm sorry, ESSER 2 was new projectors for all of the buildings in New Elmos. And then the teachers are also going to be getting new laptops. Actually, I think all staff are, getting new laptops that'll have docking stations. So they'll be portable so they can be used here and at home.
So with the SR1 funds, when did those come in?
ESSER 1 came in last year. And I believe that they might have even been released before I became superintendent. So I think that summer there were GEAR and ESSER that came out right at the very beginning of the school year last year.
So till then, so March till September, we were on our own dime then.
Correct. So in ESSER 1 too, which I didn't really mention, but these are supplanting funds. Normally they're supplementals, which means that you can't take something out of your budget and put it in. These were supplanting because they were trying to pay districts back for PPE. We spent about $100,000 the first year and probably about $50,000, I think, in March of 2020 moving forward. And then last year, about $100,000. And so those funds were intended from the federal government to pay school districts back for funds that were expended for ionization machines, for the static cleaners, for the masks, for cleaning and sanitizing, all of that kind of stuff that wasn't normally budgeted for. And so that $100,000 is about how much we captured in just COVID. So anything that was COVID related for cleaning or that was out of normal need, Michelle categorized into that category. So that money paid the district back for funds that they had taken really essentially out of our fund balance to cover the costs because those were not initially in the budget when it was built for last school year. Good question.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, with that.
Do you have an education update, foundation update?
We met.
Okay.
Okay.
And they're looking at several different things. I don't really have a very long list of notes from it. It was my first meeting, so I got the big introduction. Thanks, Steph.
Yeah.
It was eye-opening as to what the foundation actually does for students for this school. It's pretty amazing. So I was a little unprepared, honestly, for the information that I was going to get, and now I am better prepared moving forward. So, very impressive, to be honest. That's it. That's all I got.
Any other committee reports before we move on? Okay, we're going to go to our first audience participation. For audience participation, the board will invite your comments and concerns twice during tonight's meeting. First, you may address items on tonight's agenda, and a second opportunity to speak will occur later, when you may address any issue. Though it is the board's usual practice to listen without immediate comment, your concerns are noted and you may request follow-up. To address the board, please approach the lectern, give your name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Does anyone have any comments on the agenda items for tonight? Okay, moving on. Discussion topics. First discussion topic will be return to Benzie plan.
Okay, so in your packet, there were some updates made to reflect some of the changes that happened in September. Some of that change happened after our board meeting from the health department, where they added the opportunity for students that were masked in a classroom setting within 3 feet to be able to stay in school and test daily for 7 days and then monitor for symptoms. That was not something that we adopted right away because we didn't have the testing kits to do that. And we also didn't have the support to do that. This week, starting today, Leslie Grappin started. She's a nurse from the Benzie Leelanau Health Department. She's going to be here on site every day from 7:30 a.m. until 9:45. And so her plan will be to start here, help support testing students if there are any, and then move out to one of the elementary buildings or multiple elementary buildings, depending on the need. So that's one change that was not reflected in this plan last month that needs to be included. So I'll just go down the start. So masks. Again, we're still under the order for all schools in Benzie County to follow the Benzie Leelanau Health Department order from August 27th. It was again reiterated last week on Friday. I'm sorry, 2 Fridays ago, that this is the order that we will still continue to follow for this foreseeable future. We added in a statement that says medical exemptions provided by a medical doctor will be accepted. Students with a medical mask waiver will be given a shield. If a student is unable to wear a mask or a shield, the medical exemption from the doctor should state that they are unable to wear a mask or a shield for medical reasons. So that is a new statement that would be added to clarify some concerns that were coming in about medical masks and or waivers, I'm sorry. That's the only section under masks. There were no changes under vaccination, no changes under testing as far as being required. The cohort piece did not change. Social distancing did not change. There were some changes under COVID-19 contact tracing. And I did highlight in here a section, if you want to use this language as opposed to what was in the parentheses, it spells out a close contact is defined as closer than 6 feet for more than 15 minutes in a 24-hour period. In a school setting, if both the exposed individual and the positive case are wearing masks, the close contact is defined by anyone closer than 3 feet for more than 15 minutes for a 24-hour period. I'm not sure if that makes it a little clearer for people or not. So we can adopt that language in there if that makes it easier for people to understand.
As opposed to using the mitigation measures.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Then bullet points 1, 2, and 3 stayed the same. And then underneath that, we added in how the close contact works. So an individual who is a close contact to someone with COVID-19 and is not vaccinated may return to work or school on the 8th day from the date of exposure, as long as the following 3 conditions are met. The exposed individual does not have any symptoms, including fever, cough, shortness of breath, sore throat, muscle aches, runny nose, congestion, or nausea and diarrhea. 2, the exposed individual has a negative COVID-19 test on day 6 or after before they enter the school site. So day 6 or day 7, they can return on day 8. This school employee accepts the 7-day negative test quarantine option instead of the 10-day quarantine. So essentially that's saying that the district is accepting that option. And then I provided the example from the health department that it says, if you were exposed on 9/1/2021, the first day of quarantine begins on 9/2/2021. Tests can be done on 9/7 at the earliest. If it's negative, you can return to work or school on 9/9. Individuals who are fully vaccinated do not need to quarantine if exposed to COVID-19. Any questions on that part? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of language in there.
Have we received any, I mean, you've done more than your due diligence on this in the past multiple months. Have we still received any answers to any of the questions that we asked regarding when or what the metrics will be to get back to normal? This is a question that's been asked by multiple constituents, multiple families throughout the district. And I'm just curious if we have had that answer yet or not, because I know we have asked this at least since the beginning of August, July actually, and just curious where that sits, because we keep approving this plan, but do we have a light at the end of the tunnel, or is it a perpetual chase the back to normal sign?
I will read you what it says from their official statement. This was the official statement on October 1st from the health director. Let me see here.
Officer or director?
Officer, sorry. So
I'm
this
just
came from
curious.
Lisa Peacock, yep. Okay, so it says the public health order issued August 27, 2021 remains in effect until it has been determined by the health department that the risk trends have consistently improved using such indicators as transmission levels, vaccination coverage, hospital capacity, and public health capacity, and/or until further notice from the health officer.
So until further notice from the health, because the reason I'm asking is we've been getting these COVID updates weekly.
Mhm.
There's no updates.
Mhm.
And I'm getting questions all the time from families want to know, well, if everything is going down, what's the exit strategy? Where is it at? So that's why I'm asking if we've actually had any real clarification or if it's just still until,
That is.
because I got to give
most-
somebody an answer.
I
Sure.
think what we're seeing though is because we are following the protocols within the school, that's why our numbers within the school are staying very low. The community transmission rates are still at a higher percentage than the health department is comfortable
If you
saying
look
we
at the
don't need
schools
to have
that
the mask mandate.
there's a handful of schools that are unmasked that actually have lower cases than mass schools. So that's another question that I've been getting asked.
Fair
So, I mean.
But
fair
that's
enough.
why the mandate is in effect still, is because community transmission rates are high.
I know Ms. Peacock was asked that question by her board, and she said the same answer that Amy just read off.
They did provide,
So that's not an answer again. It's still the same. That's all I'm at. That's what I'm just curious if we got more than that because I've read it every time.
And
I've
I
heard
know
it.
her board has asked her to give metric.
did you also check out in I think this was last week's, there's now a
It's not.
weekly case trend summary that's on their website, which they said was due to people asking for it. So in this, it talks about number of weekly cases. It talks about data from all cases reported from August to October. It talks about the number of people that are having breakthrough cases. And I'm assuming that they're updating that often. I don't think it's a live dashboard, but
I'm just I just wanted. I've
Sure.
seen that. So
Yep.
we haven't got a clarification from her yet.
that is the most up-to-date clarification we've
Okay.
received. I
Thank
did
you.
ask.
I can at least answer constituents and families in the district
Sure.
and say we have not got that from our
I-
health department.
Yeah, I did reach out to Michelle Klein, our from the Benzie-Leonard Health Department, and asked her if they have any guidance on winter sports that will be happening, if they're going to be masked while playing basketball or wrestling and that kind of thing. And she said at this time, the guidance states that you'll be masked indoors. I asked her if there was any flexibility about could the athletes that are actually on the floor be unmasked while the ones sitting on the bench are. She said those are things that they're reviewing. And she said to plan for masks through at least January.
I'd like to see how you're gonna wrestle with the mask on.
So,
But thank you, Amy. I appreciate
Yeah.
that update. At least I have an answer that I can give to
Absolutely.
families.
I think we also should do our own grappler test there of kids quarantined. I mean, that, not positive too. I
Yeah.
think that's always nice to.
I think so far this year, there's been 2 that were out on, or actually no, 3, that were out on quarantine as a close contact that ended up positive. So that's more than what we had
And
last year.
But we also have
Zero.
more students back in school this year too.
Exactly.
Sure.
I know.
So, I mean, I'm not sure that this does look a little bit different than last year, so I don't think we've had enough to have an answer. But I will say that it does look a little bit different.
Oh, I agree. I don't disagree, but we also have a lot more kids actually in the classroom in mask to mask, if you will, than we did last year by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, they're mask to mask in the classroom for 8 hours a day, 16 hours a day. They're not masked. So it's a completely different world from last year's number because of that, I think, too, where we were masking everywhere last year and now we're not.
When we're seeing more kids is my point. We
Yeah.
have more kids actually physically in the building
Mm-hmm.
than we had last year.
I agree.
The other item that's in here that would be a change or an addition is if the student was masked and within 3 feet of the masked COVID positive student, The close contact may quarantine for 10 days, or the child may continue to attend school but test daily each morning at the school prior to starting classes. If the student is vaccinated, they may continue to attend school and test once on day 3, 4, or 5. If the vaccinated student is displaying symptoms, they should receive a negative test to resume activities. And again, this is language that's coming from MDHHS. It's just being clarified in here since there's been confusion and concerns about contact tracing. And that's the only other change.
So we still have to segregate kids by vaccinated and unvaccinated.
Only in this being that it decides how many days on when they have to test.
So the answer is yes.
You got to follow the fun little flow chart.
I'm just asking. I mean,
So
trying
how
to get
much
rid
of,
segregation, and we're doing nothing but teaching our kids to do it. So sorry.
so how much of this responsibility will fall on the new nurse? Like, will this
Daily
then,
testing.
daily testing, will
Yeah,
this
is
be
she
their
gonna do the contact
responsibility, or is
tracing
it
too?
still you guys?
From 7:30 to 9:45.
Is her?
Yes.
Okay.
The rest will fall on building administrators or secretaries or whomever's delegated. Every test that we give has to be reported to the state in a state database, as well as a call to the health department.
But if she's doing the test, don't the results go to?
She would have to do the same thing.
Okay.
So load her up from 7:30 to 9:45?
Yeah, she will be working from home the other times, so I asked if we're testing, is there a way that we can screenshot it and have her upload it? All of my administrators have now sent over a link to their COVID tracking tool, and the health departments are part of that. So that way everybody's got it in real time. We continue to get better at it and tweak it. I talked to Dave the other day about adding a column that says when it was reported, because every case we're required by law to update it on our website. And so just to make sure we have a clearer way to keep continuing to track that. Last week, it felt like a lot, so I wanted to confirm, but Katina's on it. She had them all covered, so. So that's it for the return to Benzie plan.
Okay. Any questions on that? Protocols for the board and superintendent communication.
You want to talk about this?
So we canceled that Sunday workshop that we had because we couldn't think of anything we were supposed to talk about of it. But one of the big things that we need to check in on is the communication that we built, expectations for Amy and ourselves. And we need to see how it's going, where we are with it, if Amy sees anything needs to change, and if we need anything to change. And we need to just kind of check in on that because we should be doing it. We thought we said quarterly, but we can't remember if it was bi-yearly, but either or, it's kind of both right now. So,
Probably the one thing I do remember, I believe it was quarterly.
okay, that's the thing I do remember too. So I guess we need to, check in and see how you guys feel she's communicating with us, and ask her how she feels we're communicating with her, and go from there.
I'm very happy with Top Down. I think she's doing a fantastic job communicating with us and the public in general.
Agreed.
If we're not performing up to your standard, please let us know.
She's very good at that.
Thank you.
I personally want to say, I feel for you and your family for the amount of time that you spend away from them, communicating with everybody in this community, with everybody in this district, with this entire community to try and make sure this district runs smoothly. I don't think people really understand the job you are doing. And I see it. I want you to know, I hope the board sees it. I think they do. I think they know what you do. But you have done an outstanding job with this. And I want to apologize just because I feel it's terrible, the amount of time you spend away from your family to make everything happen here. And thank you for taking on this monumental task and still charging up the hill and fighting every day for these kids and these teachers and these drivers and everybody that's a part of this district every single day. It's very commendable. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I throw a round of applause in for your partner in crime over there as well?
Oh, for
yeah.
sure.
No,
You're
She
close.
is pretty awesome.
I know she can throw things from back there.
Yeah,
I feel a shoe upside the head. I don't know where it came from.
I think all 7 of us, I feel the same way as Chris just said, so I know we can be a little troublesome sometimes. But I think it's just the passion of us wanting to get the facts, get the correct facts, and make sure that we're stopping something before it explodes and becomes a bigger pile for you, so.
Sure. Yeah, and I
Where are
do
you at?
appreciate that. Yep, for sure. I appreciate the no surprises piece in there. I think that's really important still. Hopefully that is still working the way that we're communicating, through text and email. The urgent things come through text, the, weekender every Friday. And then, I'm still trying really hard to protect my weekends as my only downtime, but I know that sometimes things happen. So, we'll take it as it comes. But, and I'm still, when I get a question from one of you, then I'll try to copy everybody in so that you all have the same facts and information. So.
But in that regard, if you are trying to protect your weekends, we as a board should do our best. That if something urgent comes up that isn't life or death, hold it till late Sunday night.
Mhm.
I mean, nothing is, in my opinion, that urgent that it has to come through that protected time for you. So we need to do our best to not send emails like that.
Well, the email that got sent was a Monday morning email.
That's fine.
So, yeah.
No, I nagged her on a Sunday morning, so I'm guilty.
You had an urgent need though.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a perfect example is this weekend when I did bug you and say, hey, I thought we said no surprises, and you're like, I had no idea about this. I'm like, oh, okay, we're good then. So,
No, I appreciate those heads up of things.
because there was something that you
Yeah.
needed
Yep.
to see, so. Okay.
Yep. So
Well,
I think
we'll
that's
revisit this
good.
again, and if you have any issues, you don't always have to wait quarterly, of course, as you know.
Yeah.
You can just kick us right in the butt, so.
All right. Well, that's it for me then.
Check,
Okay.
check.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to action topics. We have administrative appointments as our first action topic. I was gonna say, what is this? I am so confused right now. None, okay. So our first action topic truly is our approval of the 2021-22 food service contract NMCAA for the classrooms. Can I get a motion?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval to revoke the approval of the Qualified Forest Program from Coatmish, which we previously approved on the August 9th, 2021 board meeting. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the paging system, and please note that we have to approve the paging system and the contractor, and then along with that, if we're adding the additional speaker package.
I'd like to make
Go ahead, Chris.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the paging system and to include the alternate once the system is approved.
Do you want to include?
For the
Can I ask
lowest
for
bidder.
clarification? Yes, I think we need
For
more
the-
clarification on that.
Yeah, for the,
For ASCOM North.
thank you.
For
That's it.
ASCOM North. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I did not put ASCOM.
Yeah.
I apologize. Yes, from ASCOM North.
Okay. Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Adriana.
Motion carries. We're gonna table E, which is the approval of the Flat River Elementary transfer. F, approval of the return to Benzie plan. Can I get a motion?
Some of.
Support.
Any discussion?
I really think we need to get some answers on this rather than just keep changing boilerplate language. Honestly, somebody has to have answers. It's just, this is not a path forward that is conducive to healthy living. Just saying.
And to piggyback on that, it's not Amy's job to get the answers. I think we need to keep.
No, I agree.
Finding
We
the
need to reach out to our constituents, everything we can, and trying to, I'm not trying to put the onus on Amy, but she's doing what she is told or has to do. So, I mean, that's, so with that being said, I just don't support the plan. I'm sorry.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-1. No, 4-1, sorry. Approval of protocols for the board superintendent communication that we just spoke about. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion?
Thanks again, Amy. Thanks, Katina.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We're open to our second audience participation this evening. This opportunity is to speak on any issue. Though it's the board's usual practice to listen without immediate comment, your concerns are noted and you may request follow-up. To address the board, please approach the lectern and give your name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone who wants to speak?
My name is Eric Botts. I live at 3900 Blueberry Lane in Anna. I'm also a bus driver, and I'm coming to the board to ask your support or to get your skillful use of influence in a situation which is basically concerning the safety of the children. We get stressed that they're the number one priority and the most precious cargo that we haul. This issue, and I can go on a number of topics, but the one I want to talk about now is the issue of the drivers that are running our red lights. We spend approximately $25,000 to $30,000 on cameras. We get the cameras, we get the information, we fill out the paperwork. Then we get told that no, we can't do anything because the paperwork is incomplete. Well, if you and I were in a bank and we saw a robbery, it wasn't our job to provide all the necessary information to convict that robber. The police have a job to do, and that's to pursue it and find out what the problem is. That's not being done by our school resource officer. He finds out that the license plates are out of state. It's the excuses we get. But yet, I know, for example, I was driving to my aunt's funeral in Ohio with a rental vehicle with Colorado plates. And the state of Ohio, or police department, whatever city I was in, was able to ticket me for speeding, which I was. But I find it hard to believe that the police department in Ohio is better than the police department in Michigan. So if we get that information to our school resource officer, who should be able to pursue it, but yet no. And then it gets transferred up to, if it does get transferred up to the prosecuting attorney, then we get told, well, unless you know whether it was a male or female, we can't do anything. Well, again, if you have a plate number and you have a vehicle, you can ticket the owner of the vehicle. And I know doggone well that if it was my child, I'm not going to risk 3 points on my driver's license and a $500 fine. I definitely would give up who was driving my vehicle. So I'm looking at to get your support to somehow get some prosecutions done. We were told that we have one that might be doing and a second one. The only one that I know of is the one that I personally was involved in. How many drivers does it take, or how many children does it take to get killed before we're willing to pursue this with vehemence, I guess you could say? I mean, they put it on us, and you think about it. We're stopped, lights are going on. We have kids either exiting or entering the bus. You have a car barreling down at you. You don't have time to worry about what the driver looks like. You're more worried about the child. But yet it's our responsibility. It's not. Everyone has a job to do, and apparently it's not being done. The school resource officer, the police department, the prosecuting attorney, they're not doing their jobs. And someone, unfortunately, it's going to be our kids, is going to pay the consequences. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for bringing that up.
No. Anyone else? Or get
This
batteries?
one work right here. Can I give
Looks
them
like
this
we'll
one?
just use Amber's mic.
That'll work. Good evening. My name is Dave Parker. I live at 14857 Paul's Place. That's Beulah, Michigan. I have two different concerns, I guess. One of them would have to deal with the state mandated COVID vaccine for anyone over 100 employees. I guess I would like to know, or is there anything, or you guys have made a decision, how you guys stand on that and when or if it's going to be implemented? And then the other question that I have, and this is more, I guess, I've been asked as the union president with the drivers, where the school stands with their policies. I know last year when the school shut down, we were afforded our pay in lieu, even though there was nothing to do. Their concern is if that should happen again, is that still there? Even if it comes down to you guys have something for us to be able to do, even though we're not in the buses, so that we, I guess they're worried about if it does happen again, is their paycheck coming in? Because right now there's a lot of people on the fence on whether or not to stay or to leave because of them concerns. And that was just something that I wanted to address to all of you guys. Because at the end of the day, if the transportation department's not there, your kids aren't getting here. And they just want some type of reassurance that if something goes like that again, and I know there's nothing there at this current time that we know of anyways, for that to be available to us or afforded to us if that should happen again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe we'd be able to. That.
Anyone else? Last call? Okay. Moving on. Announcements.
So we have parent-teacher conferences happening this week on Wednesday and Thursday. So early dismissal, 10:40 for middle and high school and 11:50 for elementary. And then there is no school on Friday. And then we do have trunk or treat coming up. I think you said on the 22nd. And then I believe Betsy Valley has a spooky science happening with cognition that Friday, the 22nd as well, from 5 to 7.
Adjournment.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Did we just have one person on phone line?